Now, I'm not logged into ChatGPT, as you can see. If I put best B2B SEO agency UK into ChatGPT, session media are number 2. And this is a term that we've been testing to get visible for. If I put best decisioning software UK into ChatGPT, again, I'm not logged in, so this isn't using any of my message history or anything like that. Our client also comes up number 2. Now, these are 2 phrases that have buyer intent. So people looking for services will search these phrases in ChatGPT, and both session media and one of our clients are being recommended. But the best thing about this is driving actual pipeline and real revenue into our clients' businesses already today. And today I'm going to walk through the exact process step by step that you can follow to ensure your brand gets recommended in AI search results, enabling you to drive real customers and actual revenue for your business, just like our clients are. This is the only video that you need to understand how to dominate AI SEO and AI search results going into 2026. And if you stick around until the end, I will show you how to track all of this in GA4 and additionally show you how you can find terms that AI is already showing you for in your current Google Search Console property. Now, if we've not met before, my name's Ben Alfrey. I'm co-founder of Session Media. We are a B2B performance marketing agency, and we've helped our clients generate in the tens of millions of pounds worth of pipeline over the last few years. Now, if you want to discuss your SEO or AI SEO strategy going into 2026, then simply Google Session Media, jump onto the Get Proposal landing page and fill in the contact form. Alternatively, if you want the exact presentation that I'm about to take you guys through, then sign up to the link in the description and you'll be sent a Notion board that looks like this. If you click that first link in the description, then you can have direct access to this presentation. Okay, without further ado, let's dive into the video. If you've made it past the intro, thank you very much. Now, my overall goal for this video is for you to come away from it with a set of actions that you can test that will start enabling you to get results such as our clients, which is real pipeline, real revenue into their business from appearing more frequently for high intent, commercially led terms in these AI models. Now, there's 3 learnings that I want to try and communicate. So the first one is helping you to understand how AI search works in a little bit more detail. So I think the fundamentals are really important here. Number 2 is obviously how to increase the likeliness of having your brand recommended in AI search. And number 3 is how to measure the actual impacts of AI on your business. Now, there's 1 or 2 caveats that I've just added to the bottom here. The first one is, although we're testing things, this testing doesn't happen in isolation. So for all of our clients, we're doing either both or one of paid media, SEO, AI SEO. They themselves will be doing events, email marketing, newsletters. You know, there'll be a lot that goes into the ecosystem that will have some nominal impact on AI visibility. So testing in isolation is very difficult, right? The second part to this is that what works now and today and early on might not work in 1 year's time. So what I'm going to talk you through are things that we've been testing for coming up to sort of 19, 20 months now. And we've got sort of a hit list of things that seem to work at the moment. But in 2027, you know, a lot of this playbook might have changed. So just a couple of things to bear in mind. The first bit is I do want to address the elephant in the room because I hear a lot of this projected in the ecosystem very frequently. Yes, it's true. AI search only directly drives maybe 1 to 2% of total referral traffic versus the likes of organic. That has been proven time and time again. I've added the Search Engine Land study here to prove that. So you might be sat in there thinking, well, what's the point? Why am I worrying over this 1 or 2%? And the problem is that if you think like that, you're really missing the bigger picture of the role that AI is playing on users determining whether they want to work with you and use your business or not. A follow-up study was done by McKinsey that showed that not only are 50% of consumers already using AI search in some capacity, but 70% of those AI-powered search users ask questions at the top of the funnel, middle of the funnel, and all the way through to the bottom of the funnel. So users are essentially doing the information seeking, the deliberation, and making the decision directly in AI search. Now, just because they're not necessarily clicking and visiting your site or visiting a competitor site directly, that doesn't mean that it's not having influence. And I think this is so important because fundamentally, we need to understand that just because AI will always likely be low click doesn't mean that it's going to be low impact. So it's good to disassociate the two. It is very much involved in helping you determine the solution that you want, but won't necessarily send you directly to that solution. The whole business model of an AI answer box is to give you the answer, right? It's not to kind of sit as a middleman like Google has been traditionally built, in which it will drive you to various different sites. It wants to give you the answer up front without requiring you to go directly to those sites. So AI traffic, I believe, will always be very low in your GA4, in your data set, your monster insights. It will always be this slither down at the bottom saying it's only 1 or 2% directly. But AI will probably have the biggest impact on whether a consumer chooses you or one of your competitors. So I just wanted to make that clear. So the first part to this, what type of content is AI serving? So a really broad research piece done by Goody looked at 5.7 million links pulled from the likes of GPT-4o, Gemini 1.5, Claude 3.7, Sonnet, Perplexity Pro between February and June of last year. And what they found was that 10 domains contributed 35% of all citations. So the first obvious action point here, especially if you're in a B2B SaaS category, is get featured on all of these domains, right? Reddit, PC Mag, G2, Forbes, Capterra, TechRadar, Wikipedia, TechCrunch, TrustRadius, Gartner. Whenever we onboard a client now, we'll have a hit list that sort of has them sort of self-assess whether they're featured in here. And if they're not, we spend that first month just making sure that we have features of their brand in all of these places. The same study also had a look at the top 10 factors that actually influence AI visibility. They looked at just over 1 million prompts, I think it was, over a 3-month period. Again, looking at a similar range of models, and their results are listed below. So we've got content relevance, so how precisely the content matches the user's prompts, content quality and depth, so how comprehensive, insightful, accurate, and thorough the information provided is, trustworthiness and credibility, so the degree in which information originates from reputable, accurate, and reliable sources, AI crawlability and structured data, so can the bots access the pages, topical authority and expertise, so the depth and interconnectedness and consistency of certain topics to a domain, content freshness and timeliness, so recency and the up-to-date nature of information, particularly relevant for time-sensitive queries or topics, citations and mentions, so the quality and frequency of brand mentions and citations in credible and authoritative external sources, data frequency and consistency, how frequently and consistently the brand updates or publishes high-quality content, and is the information consistent and verifiable across multiple different sources. And then the final two, verifiable performance metrics, the use of externally validated and clearly articulated data-backed metrics to support claims and illustrate a point of view, and technical performance. So the quality of technical site aspects such as low speed layout, stability, mobile responsiveness, impacting user experience, and crawl efficiency. The study then went one step further and had a look at the weighting of all of these factors. So the tier 1, the core drivers, this is where the factors were most prominent across most of the prompts, largely fell down to the on-page, the technical, and the off-page, which sounds a little bit like SEO, right? So what have we got here? We've got the content quality and depth, content relevance, trustworthiness and credibility, AI crawlability, citations and mentions, topical authority, content freshness, and the data frequency and consistency. So today I'm going to talk through mainly how to tick the box of these tier 1, these core drivers. Fundamentally, these are going to be the things that move the needle the most. And if we had to summarize this in a total statement, it would be something along the lines of to maximize AI visibility, we need to create highly relevant, deeply authoritative, technically structured, consistently updated content that models can easily interpret, verify, and trust. If this is your mission statement for your AI SEO go-to-market plan, stick it on your whiteboard, put it as a screensaver, write it in a post-it note, I don't know, but this is essentially what we're trying to achieve with our AI SEO and AI search activities. So how does AI search work? Now stick with me just for the next 1 or 2 minutes, because this is absolutely critical when thinking about how to create your content and structure your content. Now, LLM Refs did a fantastic breakdown of exactly how ChatGPT takes a user prompt, finds content, chunks of content, and serves the user back in a very nice sort of walkthrough video. I've taken a few snippets of that. I've also added the data source if you wish to see this yourself. So the first thing is the user prompt is obviously put into the prompt box in ChatGPT. ChatGPT then creates a fan out query. So this means that they take the prompt and they essentially analyze several different keywords all related to that prompt. So that means one user prompt, one search can trigger 6, 7, 8, 9, even 10 sometimes different keywords that are being searched as the model seeks to understand what it can about the user prompt before aggregating the results. So on the right-hand side, this is what it looks like. It triggers a series of web search results. The AI bot then visits the page content, but unlike Google, which crawls everything, renders everything, the AI bot actually chunks information that it believes is valid and relevant to the user prompt. So this means that the AI bot won't necessarily crawl and read, in layman's terms, everything that's written on a page. It will only look at the paragraphs and the chunks that it believes are important based on what the user prompt is. So what it does is it will go through a piece of content and it will slice the content up, put all these slices into a web context box. It will then tie that in with its pre-training data, aggregate the results, and serve the answer back to the user. So this means that we have to essentially instruct the AI model which parts of the content are important and maybe which parts aren't. And there's been studies recently that actually show that longer pieces of content, higher word counts, actually perform less, as the model can't necessarily understand what the important information is from that piece of content because it's being diluted away. So it's always good to make sure that everything is structured properly. And we'll come on to that in a little bit. So how can we go about actioning this? Well, the first bit is making sure that we create and structure content that AI loves. So feel free to screenshot this or take a note, and I'll briefly go through each of these points. So the item on the left-hand side, and I'm starting from the top down from a content structure perspective. So the first thing is add a quick overview at the start. This means that as soon as the model visits the page, they can see when it was updated, what it's about, who wrote it, and straight away they will understand whether this content is going to be relevant to the user prompt that's just been entered into, say, the likes of ChatGPT. The second part is using bullet points, numbers, and tables when explaining certain concepts. So this means that we're structuring data that is easily read and understood. One of the critical things with this is I think a lot of people forget the sheer cost it is to crawl the web and extract information from the web. It is incredibly expensive. So the likes of ChatGPT are going to make this as resource efficient and economically efficient as they can. So this means that they don't want to crawl sort of hundreds of words in a paragraph and try and spend more time and resource figuring out the meaning of that paragraph. They just want the bullet point, the answer. They just want things structured in a way that's easy for them to extract, slice it, and serve it in the web context. So this means that we need to provide it in that format. This is great for Google as well, believe it or not. Part 3 is using H3s to dive deeper. So we give all the important information, all the important answers right at the top. Then we use H3s further down the page to give a bit more detail if it's required. So this will be like a deep dive on industry use cases and experiences. Part 4 is using information gaps. So, bringing new data, information, experiences that are unique to you. If you launched a primary data study and you were the original source of that primary data and it went viral and got referenced all over the web, you're going to be seen as an authority for the next data set that's going to go out and for any prompts that are related to the category of which you've created data for. So always trying to bring new data, new experiences into the web is in general a good thing. It's great for Google as well. And the final part, which is sort of tied to the information gap, but this is bringing in expert opinions and references. So this is very much presenting information in a trustworthy manner, making sure you're citing your sources so that whatever you say can be validated. In turn, using sort of technical phrases that really can showcase sort of experiences, right? So if you need to go into sort of technical jargon, don't be scared of doing that, because if the user has used that, say, technical jargon in their prompt and there's less content available that is also using that technical jargon, you are far more likely to be referenced, right? And the final part to this is just avoid easily verifiable factual errors. And what I've done on this next slide is just given a few actual examples of this. So using H3s to go deeper, but not necessarily broader on a certain topic. So, if we're a managed service provider and we're looking to reduce ticket volume in 2025, some examples might be common root causes MSPs find when analyzing ticket clusters, how an MSP reduced password reset tickets by 42% using conditional access, an analysis of the top enable ticket categories from 500K anonymized tickets. This probably doesn't mean a great deal to you, but it is technical phrases that MSPs would use that sort of can show off experiences and gives them an opportunity to dive deeper on a particular subject area, right? Which is how to reduce ticket volume. The second part to this is information gaps. So new data might be something like across 27 MSP clients, 63% of phishing tickets came from 2 suppliers that don't support DMARC. Real field experiences, we still see 1 to 2 SMBs per month running Server 2012 that extended security updates. So it's bringing in new information to the table, basically. Again, the actual substance of this probably doesn't mean a lot, but I hope the examples do make sense. And the final part to this, bringing expert opinions and references. So, citing an engineer's expertise. So based on 50 plus cybersecurity audits for MSP clients, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So now using the MSP example, let's put this into practice, right? So I did a ChatGPT search of the best managed IT service solution. And here were my results. So the first thing was an outline of what to look for in a great MSP. And interestingly, what was cited was the same article on no less than 5 or 6 different occasions. So this article by Corsica Technology. Below that was then a Wikipedia entry, which, if we think back to the study right at the start, is one of the commonly cited domains in ChatGPT. So of course we go onto the Corsica Technology landing page and let's have a look at what that structure looks like and think about what the optimal structure is for ChatGPT in particular. So there's a few things here. We've got a title that is highly relevant to my query. So the best managed IT service providers, 7 signs of excellence, a highly relevant query. I've also got a linkable author bio up at the top here. So if my credentials need to be validated, or in this case, if George's credentials need to be validated, then they can. We've also got a published date, but we've got a nice updated date here. So it shows freshness and recency. We've got a key takeaways up at the top here. So we're telling the user and the AI bot exactly what the article is about and the summary of it right at the start. And of course, you can get a feel for how the content is structured. We've got bullet points here. We've got 1 sentence paragraphs. Even this paragraph here is no more than 2 sentences. So we can understand why, from an on-page perspective, ChatGPT might like this page. The next part to this is creating citations, mentions, and building trust. Now, the best way to think about this is if everyone on the web said the exact same thing about a specific question, how would the AI models know who to cite? And this is where building the off-page association and backlinks really helps create that trust and authority. And that becomes the moat essentially around our content. Let me explain. Now, it's no secret, and you probably would have seen it. If you're watching this video, I'll be amazed if you haven't seen it. But listicles are becoming one of the most cited content types across all AI models. That isn't just ChatGPT. That's also Google's AI overview. That's also Perplexity. And what's happening is that the AI models are aggregating the outputs of many of these different listicles and then serving their aggregated answer as an answer to a particular user prompt. And what we're finding is essentially the more surface area we can cover across various different listicles, the more visibility that we are seemingly able to achieve with a particular brand. So the session media example, we're in hundreds of listicles referencing us as the best B2B SEO agency in the UK. And what we can see is that the model has clearly aggregated a lot of those outcomes and then served one as a reference point to show that we are, being cited as the best B2B SEO agency in the UK, for example. Now, if we go back to the example that we were using around the best IT managed service providers, you can see on the right-hand side the list of citations that ChatGPT freely offers up. And again, you'll notice the obvious trend with all of these is that they are all listicles. So at the top here, we've got find the top managed IT service providers in your area. We've got the top 100 managed service providers in the US. We've got the 5 top managed IT service providers with case studies. We've got CRN.com, the 2025 managed service providers, 500, top US MSP companies from Clutch, top 19 IT managed service providers. So again, if I was an MSP and I wanted my brand to appear for best IT managed service provider or solution, I would do everything I can to get my brand featured in the top 3 in all of these listicles. Because again, if we're consistently in the top 3 of listicles, the ChatGPT is already trusting the aggregate of results will show that we should be being served as being one of the better providers, right? So this becomes essentially like a hit list for outreach. I would find the authors of every single one of these, and then I would email them just outlining why we deserve to be top 3, if we can, top 1, and we can choose the avenue in which we want to frame that email. And I'll be honest, it is a bit of a numbers game. So you just want to try and cover as much surface area as you can. So definitely start with these as a bit of a hit list, and then have a look at other listicles that aren't featured in the citations list from ChatGPT, maybe ones that you can find just through a Google search, and start getting in the process of pitching those authors that wrote those pieces for a bid to get your brand featured in them. And again, this is something that we've been doing for our clients for a number of years now, partly because it was always great sales enablement stuff, right? If we could get them in the, the top 10 best HR software providers in the UK, or the best B2B market research companies, et cetera, then when their prospects are doing external research, maybe not, necessarily through Google or AI, and they're coming across these listicles and they consistently see our clients featured as being one of the better solutions, that of course is going to play a role in them wanting to reach out to our client and engage them for services. So here's a handful of listicles that we've had our clients featured in the past. So 7 top road to planning software, 13 top translation companies, 40 best HR softwares, top 10 B2B market research companies. If you look hard enough, you will see our clients feature quite frequently across a number of these different categories. And again, this sort of plays into the more traditional SEO route. But of course, getting featured in the listicles isn't quite enough. We also need to show that we are an authority in that specific category. And of course, as part of our SEO offering that we've offered for years and years and years, is the concept of building this authority through earning links with creative campaigns and creative news stories. So a lot of what we do at the agency is, on top of more sort of traditional link building tactics and campaigns, is creating more of these PRable, linkable, newsworthy microsites, infographics that bring primary data or a collage of secondary data dressed up in a more sort of appealing format, and then pitching these sort of stories into various journalists, into category leaders, into sites that we want our clients to be featured on. So for example, we ran a campaign called Fake It Till You Make It, where we were doing work for a performance management software brand. We decided to ask 1,500 members of the UK if they'd ever lied on their CV or in the recruitment process before. And it turned out something like 32% of employees admitted to doing that. That becomes a very nice newsworthy angle that we can pitch into many journalists, get many sort of mentions of the brand in these high authority publications, get links back to their website. And this is fundamentally how you create trust and how you create authority, not just with the likes of ChatGPT, but even with Google as well. And this becomes, as I mentioned, a real moat for your business. So this sort of authority building, this sort of digital PR approach should be going on alongside the more traditional listicle feature outreach that you will be doing. And the best way to visually show this is on the right-hand side here, we have a third-party website that hyperlinks to our client's website. And this hyperlink is essentially what creates that authority. That becomes a vote of trust, a vote of confidence, like a vouching for the linking site that the AI models and Google use to sort of build that authority moat, so to speak. Now, this isn't going to be a link building video. I have done videos on link building. And if you want to know more about sort of link building tactics, how to do it, how we do it, then do reach out to me on LinkedIn and drop me a DM. On the left-hand side, I've got a list of sort of other link types that you can build, from guest post, link recommendation, entity stacking, citations, listicles, tier 2 newsjacking, and of course, PR campaigns. So the best thing really from a high level is to create many different types of links, many different types of sources consistently over a period of time with those journalists and those category leaders within your industry, because fundamentally that's what will build your trust over time. This is probably the most difficult part of all of this because it's out of your control. You're hoping that someone else will link to your website and you have to give them good reason to do that, which is why we spend most of our time actually on the link building side and the off page, because this is really what creates the trust and fundamentally what will get those mentions into the likes of a ChatGPT, for example. And the beauty is, for the clients that we've been working with for several years, 6, 7, 8 years on the SEO activities, building links, variety of links over a number of different years, we can see in our rank trackers that naturally they have higher visibility. I'll come on to sentiment in a little bit, but we can see that they're getting the mentions, they're getting the citations, they're ranking higher average position for the key terms that we're monitoring. They're being detected more than some of the clients that we've only recently onboarded, for example, that haven't been doing previous or more traditional SEO activities. And it's this visibility that fundamentally is driving the types of deals in pipeline that we're seeing. And I'm super excited to sort of see how impactful AI can be on those businesses moving into this year. Now, segueing nicely into the final part of this, which is reporting and measuring on the impact that AI is having on your business. We have tested many rank trackers over the last sort of 18 months or so. We've settled on Rank Scale, but there's many others out there, LLM Refs, Profound, two sort of key industry leaders. I would say we have our own reasons for choosing the likes of Rank Scale because of the depth of data and the control that we can have. So, for example, for this client here, we're tracking 500 different terms across the 5 core models. So one term will be tracked 5 times. So that's why it's actually 100 core terms, but times 5, right? So across ChatGPT, AI Overviews, AIO, Bing Copilot, and Perplexity. What we're using is the sort of success signals with this. Obviously, if we can get directly attributable revenue that we can see via GA4, fantastic, but that isn't necessarily a North Star metric because we know that a lot of buyers don't actually shop like that. They will see us featured in one of those listicles and they will come via the site. They will reach out to us and say that they found us in ChatGPT, right? So really there's 3 sort of core parts or benefits of using rank tracking. I would say obviously the first one is, trying to maximize the visibility and maximize visibility in the top 3. You don't want to be recommended 10th on a list. You want to be at least in that top 3, ideally first, because obviously, everyone wants to work with the best, right? The second part of this is these rank trackers are really good at giving you the sources of where the brands that are appearing, the citations that they've landed to generate that appearance. So as I said, you can pull this directly out of ChatGPT. But out of these rank trackers, you can get a little bit more data. So you can get more citations, more opportunities to outreach and pitch. And then we use that as a target for our outreach team. So when they're pitching the traditional sort of more PR retype campaigns, the more newsworthy and data-led campaigns, they will also reach out to the different listicles and pitch for our clients to be featured in them. And the third part to this, and one that I don't see spoken about enough, is sentiment. Now, you can be featured in all the listicles that you want, but if people are going onto Trustpilot, if they're going onto Clutch, if they're going onto Capterra, and they're saying that you are a terrible business, then you will not be recommended as a business or a solution for a user, right? So trying to control the positive or at least neutral sentiment around your brand is absolutely critical. And if you do end up getting some form of negative sentiment, just make sure that you address it. And in turn, try and speak to your longer serving customers and have them review you across these review platforms on Google, for example, so that the sentiment of your brand is far more positive than it might be a negative, right? And let me show you some examples of what that can look like for this specific client. So just quickly, some of the other things that we can pull out of the rank trackers are things like competitor analysis. So we can have a look at our direct competitors, what their sentiments are, or is rather, the detection rate, top 3, etc., and overall visibility. So we start sort of benchmarking ourselves against some of the leading players in the space. And as mentioned, we get the more sort of deep dive data set of domains that we can outreach that are having some influence on the 5 models in which we're tracking those 500 or so different terms for. I mean, there's enough for a person in a full-time role to just keep pitching these domains over and over until we get that visibility in those lists, right? But let me touch back onto sentiment. So this is really important because you want to understand what the models are saying about you, because fundamentally what they're saying about you is what they're saying to users. So if there are things in here that suddenly don't seem right, or people are saying that our pricing is too expensive, or there's negative connotations with the brand, we need to do what we can to address that. Now, in turn, if there are things that we're being spoken about positively, then this could also be good content that we can bring into our website, into our infrastructure. We can talk more freely about, because we know that it's things that the models have found outside of our website that people are liking us for. And so maybe if we don't mention those things enough, that we should start doing that, because clearly they are having an influence on whether a user decides to reach out to us or not. So for example, in this case, the fact that we've got an integrated PSA, seamless integration, workflow orchestration, deep scripting, these are all core terms that we want to make sure that we're shouting about, because we're being told that this is what we're best at. And as mentioned, the negative is what we want to try and overcome. And thankfully, the negative reviews, or negative keywords rather, are far fewer than the positive. But these are still things that we should look to address where we can. And that sort of wraps it all up. I will go through a brief summary in a couple of slides' time, but I did promise you guys at the start that if you stuck around till towards the end, I'll give you some good ways in which you can find directly attributable revenue from an AI model. And if you jump into your GA4 property, I've given a bit of a breakdown as to how to find this report, and I've also done a video on it. But head into reports, head into acquisition, traffic acquisition, go to the channel table and select session source. On the right-hand side, if you open up the report panel and then essentially set match type matches regex, and then paste this regex formula into the bottom. And what this does is it will look for any referral source that's come from an AI model. And if you've got your revenue component and your key events set up properly, you'll be able to see revenue that's come directly from a model that's featured in here. Now, as these models grow, you can literally just add to it. You can probably ask ChatGPT to do that, but it's a really good way to understand which models are sending traffic, engagement rates, conversion rates, and the value of that traffic as well. Second part to this, and I've also done a video on this, and I've also created a Chrome extension for this as well. In Google Search Console, you can find with good likeliness, with a high degree of confidence, which phrases the models are actually searching in Google to find your business. And essentially what we need to do is find any queries that's greater than 75 characters that are consistently showing up in the tens, hundreds, even thousands of impressions. So again, if you go into your Google Search Console property, head into performance, select query, select custom regex, matches regex, and then just add this formula here, which is dot curly bracket 75 comma close curly bracket. This will essentially find any query that's 75 characters or greater, and you will be amazed as to the types of queries that the models are searching and finding your website for. Now, how can we use this data? Well, we can, if we don't properly optimize for it, or maybe we have a little bit of content that's buried somewhere, and these are phrases that the models are consistently finding, then maybe we want to either create dedicated pages for this content. Maybe we want to recontrol the narrative of what's being said and just make sure that the sentiment of what's being pass back is positive, of course. But it's also interesting to, sometimes you can see that our clients are being compared or asked for comparisons with like a competitor, for example. So this would be a good opportunity to create competitor comparison content that addresses those things specifically. So yeah, take a look at the video here. I walk through in a bit more detail, and I also walk through the Chrome extension I created that allows you to pull this within one click. And now finally, to sum up everything that we went through, there's 3 broad buckets or 3 core categories that you need to pay attention to if you want to dominate AI search in 2026. The first one is content. So structuring in bite-sized chunks, bullet points, tables, single sentence paragraphs. Number 2 is show and prove your expertise in that specific category. Number 3, create an information page, a service page, and listicle page for your high intent keywords. So, those keywords that prospects use to find you, just so that you tick all the boxes. So that listicle, for example, that you want to get featured in, create that listicle and host it on your website, because at the moment that still works. Number 2, creating the authority and the off page. This is really where the significant movement happens. So the first part is create the best X service solution style listicle and sit it on third-party domains. Now, if you can't get a link back to your site, don't worry about it, because ChatGPT will, as long as you can get obviously a mention of your brand, ChatGPT will aggregate all those mentions. So for example, for us, the best B2B SEO agency, most of those articles don't actually link to Session Media, for example, but they say Session Media are one of the best B2B SEO agencies in the UK, which if I'm honest, I do agree with, right? Number 2 is get listed in high authority directories. So, those top 10 domains that own 35% of those mentions, just make sure you can get a profile set up on those. If you can then subsequently get customers to review you on those sites that can take reviews, even better. Do that, because you'll influence the positive sentiment of your brand. And number 3, more traditional SEO-y, I'll be honest, but launch link building campaigns that encourage third-party websites in your sector to link back to your site, because this is great for AI overviews. Obviously, it's great for Google and AI mode. The final part to this is measuring that impact. So in your GA4, look out for a query string that equals ChatGPT. So for example, query equals from a referral source, ChatGPT, and or an increase in direct traffic, because at the moment, as far as I'm aware, if a user clicks off to a site from the ChatGPT app, I don't believe it's always correctly attributed with UTM strings. So it will come through as direct. The second part is use a prompt tracking tool such as Profound to monitor your AI visibility and measure yourself against competitors. So use, have those as benchmarks, and then see the sources that maybe they're getting their features in and outreach them to try and get featured on them as well. And then the final part to this fundamentally is, and I recommend doing this across any marketing activity, is ask prospects to self-attribute where they first came across your business. You can look at all the data in the world. You can see all the metrics, all the numbers on the screen, but fundamentally you want to know what the key lever was that caused someone to go to your business versus a competitor. And you might be surprised that it might not be anything that shows up in your data or anything that you thought would be that particular lever. So thank you very much for your time. If you do want me to do or run an AI audit on your business, then jump onto the Session Media site and fill in the contact form. If you like videos such as this, then please do subscribe to the channel. Otherwise, I will see you next time.